Good morning. On some of my videos talking about the Mandela Effect, talking about Kennedy and the four-seater, I talked about my research. So I'm going to tell you who shot Kennedy from the grassy knoll. I'm going to tell you who the principal players were. The main principal player was Lyndon Baines Johnson, and he was assisted by Governor Connally, who convinced Kennedy to come to Texas by flattering him and stuff like that, and how much the Texas people loved him, and helped set up the motorcade route, knowing he was going to be killed. The CIA, they hated Kennedy. He thwarted their plans to retake Cuba from Castro and put Batista back in power. They had trained a lot of Cuban nationals down in southern Florida, and Kennedy was supposed to give him air support, and he pulled it at the last minute after the invasion. And interestingly enough, one of the people that helped train these Cuban nationals was one of the shooters. He was one of the shooter from the grassy knoll. JFK Hoover, the director of the FBI, was principally involved in the cover-up, and along with LBJ. Sam Gianconna of the Chicago mob hated Kennedy. Robert Kennedy was going after the mob, and they were the ones, Sam Gianconna was the one that swung Chicago for Kennedy, because Joe Kennedy, JFK's dad, said, hey, you'll have a friend in the White House. They didn't. They were pissed. The shooters, Oswald never shot anybody that day. Charles Nicoletti, one of the lieutenants under Gianconna, one of Chicago's top hitmen, and his driver, James Files, who was his assistant hitman, who was also one of the trainers. He was a CIA asset, and he helped train the Cuban nationals prior to the Bay of Pigs, the failed Bay of Pigs. And Nicoletti was shooting at Kennedy from the rear, struck him in the back. James Files was instructed not to fire, only as a last resort, if he did not have another chance to fire and there had not been a headshot, because they were trying to make it look like it was from the rear. He was behind the picket fence, hidden by the tree on the grassy knoll. He had a long barrel prototype .22 pistol with a high-powered scope. He had received this from David Atlee Phillips, his CIA handler. In the chamber, he had a high-velocity, long-shelled .22 round, and it had been drilled out, filled with mercury, and resealed so it would explode on impact. He fired one shot. This was just after Kennedy's car passed the freeway sign. He had to fire then because Jackie would have been in the way if he'd waited any longer, so he struck Kennedy right there in the temple. And there you go. Blew out his brains. And the rest is history. I'm going to put some links below. I made this video because my entire life I always wondered who was the man who took that headshot. As many times as I watched the Zapruder film, who was the man that blew out Kennedy's brains? His name was James Files. He was 21 years old. He is presently incarcerated in the Illinois State Prison. Google search his name. One of the first images that come up will show him at that age with a person with dark hair and sunglasses. This man was the one who killed Tippit, Officer Tippit, because he got in his way, because this man was supposed to take out Oswald, keep him from ever being incarcerated and interrogated. And Tippit got in the way and he shot him. Check the links below.